All right, Jeremy Pruitt, if you're going to cheat, at least win. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, everyone, on a Friday night, taking your calls. Of course, the number one story in college football today are NCAA violations against Tennessee and an $8 million fine. We'll delve into that together. Probably at this point, all of you know more about it than I do because I have yet to sink my teeth into any of this. Today, I've been gone swinging the softball bat tonight, having a good time with the boys as we have each and every Friday night this summer. So it's been fun to play softball for the first time in about 5 years. We'll have to take the Voice of College Football cameras out to the softball field possibly at some point this summer. And anyway, we will do that at some point, possibly. All right. The reason we're all here is to talk college football. This is not strictly about the Tennessee Volunteers. If you'd like to call about anything concerning college football, we are here. Follow me on Twitter at MarkRogersTV. Amazon links in the description section. You know what to do. You shop Amazon. Please use the link that we provide. Okay. I will let you know that, again, we were talking Big 12 Media Days all day, all afternoon. We did a 2+ hour show. That was my concentration. And since then, I have not been home. So we are delving into this for the first time. So let's get through the facts, and then we will take your calls. The Tennessee football program avoided a bowl ban, but was fined more than $8 million by the NCAA Division I Committee on Infractions. They are still breathing. They're still working, huh? There at the NCAA, which announced its punishment for the Volunteers Friday after finding more than 200 individual infractions committed by the school under former coach Jeremy Pruitt. Among the penalties handed down, Tennessee has been placed on 5 years probation, was given an $8 million fine, among other financial penalties that will push the total closer to $9 million. Total deduction of 28 scholarships. Okay, that's key. 28 scholarship, which the NCAA said was equivalent to the financial impact the school would have faced if it missed the postseason during the 23 and 24 seasons. Okay. All right. So maybe the NCAA, for the first time in a long time, has done something reasonable because Jeremy Pruitt's at fault here. And of course, Jeremy Pruitt right now, I believe, is coaching in the NFL. So Jeremy Pruitt's in the NFL, so he cannot be penalized. And that's what's been wrong with NCAA violations and punishments in the past and discipline in the past. And I get it. It's difficult to wield years later because the people responsible are gone. And the people that are left are the ones that have to face the penalties. So at least they are allowing the coaches and the players to play in postseason and compete for championships. Okay, challenging set of circumstances related to prescribing penalties in this case. The infraction committee said in a decision, the panel urges the infractions process committee and the membership to clearly define its philosophy regarding penalties. Okay, we don't want to know that. I want to know what they found will require Tennessee to vacate all wins and individual records in any game in which 16 individual sanctioned players participated. Okay, that makes sense. In terms of the wins, I hate when the wins are vacated and it punishes players that were not at fault. And did Tennessee actually win any games during this time? 3 seasons as coach, not from the past 2 seasons under Josh Heupel. Vols were credited for their self-imposed 16 scholarship reduction over the past 2 years, so they got out in front of it. That always impresses the NCAA. We'll cut 2 more scholarships this year, meaning 10 additional scholarships will be taken away over the 5-year probation period. So they're spread out. They're spread out. The scholarship reductions spread out. 18 level 1 violations, the most severe in the NCAA rule structure. 200 infractions, charges of $60,000 in impermissible benefits, and both Pruitt and his wife Casey making cash payments to players' families. Pruitt would be suspended for the first full season if he is hired by an NCAA school. Pruitt, who was 16 and 19, fired for cause Tennessee after the 2020 season, did not receive any of his $12.6 million buyout. There we go. He's with the New York Giants. Okay, cash to players. That's a no-no, of course. And we will now take your calls because we could be reading this for the next month. Let me see this about Greg Sankey. If Tennessee officials and others, including SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and Pruitt, were in Cincinnati for 2 days in April as the Committee on Infractions heard Tennessee's case, which was ignited when University Chancellor Donde Plowman said in November of 20 that her office had received a credible tip on a potential recruiting violation. Okay, let's get to it. Let's bring all of you in to talk college football. We do not need to talk Tennessee. This is all in your hands. You drive the show, folks. So here we go. We got Landon on the line. Landon,
Hey, Mark, how you doing, buddy?
hello, Landon. I'm doing just fine. What's going on tonight?
Am I coming through okay?
Yes, we got you. Hello, Landon.
Can you hear me, buddy?
Us? Yes, we got you. Go right ahead. Go ahead, Landon. Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, unfortunately, Landon cannot hear us. So, Landon, try to come back, and we will take your call. Amari's on the line. Amari, how you doing tonight?
Yes, sir. Amari's doing great. I'm glad to have this chance, you know.
Absolutely, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm feeling great. I mean, my bet actually for the night lost. I didn't bet on MLB tonight. I should actually follow more people's picks with MLB. I'm more of a basketball and football type of guy, but I bet on all international basketball. Tonight I bet on the Summer League and went 1 for 2 in a parlay. But you know how that goes.
I stay away from the parlays.
I usually just straight bet. I usually do just straight bet.
I always say stay. Those are. Sorry, I'm going to go there, but I'm going to say they're for suckers. The parlays.
Some people say. Some people do. Most people say.
I don't like parlays.
But it's going to be a great chance to parlay during football
They're
season.
way against you. Way against you. All right, Amari, what you got going tonight?
Well, I'll give a couple of free picks since like I said, I already lost, but I always have picks in mind.
Free picks? What are we giving? College football picks?
Nah. Well, should I give college football?
You've shown up to the right show for college football. For anything else, unfortunately,
right.
That's all we got.
I'm ready for that too. I really honestly do not know. I've never been on this show. It's my first time ever.
Oh, well, we appreciate you being here.
Right. Literally, man. Yes, sir. So let me get to the point, man. So we see I like Jacksonville State over week 1, August 26th, next month versus UTEP. That's very low to be in that conference. Jacksonville State over 51.5. I'm taking
Jacksonville State, Sam Houston State. Was that the play over 51?
Jacksonville State versus UTEP.
UTEP.
Yes.
Over 51. Everybody mark that one down.
Y'all see it. Oh, you can't see it, but it's there. It's on FanDuel.
We got you. All right. Okay.
Should I give more? Yeah, let's give more, actually.
Sure, if you've got them, and if anyone is listening and wants free advice.
Free advice. And y'all remember how Hawaii was last year on week 1. If not, just know it was a high-scoring game. I also think this will also be a high-scoring game. I like the over versus Vanderbilt. It was the SEC team that went to Hawaii last year. I really forgot who it was, honestly.
Vanderbilt.
It was Vanderbilt. It was Vanderbilt. Literally, they went to Hawaii.
63 to 10.
Right. It's going to be the same outcome once again. 55, taking it. It's over 54.5. Actually. So
you're going a lot of over-unders here. Okay.
I do usually like over-unders. I do usually like those.
Okay.
Football is week 1. I like those 2 overs especially. I'll also give one more over. Ooh, that one's a risk. Because honestly, I'm just not coming up with these, and it's definitely gonna hit because I'm definitely taking those myself. College football. I think Minnesota and Nebraska is actually that's going to be a coin flip game. The Nebraska spread is 7.5. I like the Nebraska spread. Honestly.
Okay. I like that one too, even though I don't make the picks until the week of the game. Amari's saying take Nebraska on the road 7.5 against Minnesota.
Yes, sir.
UTEP, Sam Houston State over 51. Vandy, Hawaii over. What's the number?
The Vandy Hawaii is 54.5.
Okay.
Over.
They scored 73 last year.
73.
All right.
And I'm going to give one money line, and it's a guarantee. The odds aren't as great as the ones I've already gave, but the money line is Utah. My favorite team is actually Florida Gators. I've been a fan since Tim Tebow, and they play Utah, and we barely beat them last year, and Florida is not going to be great this year, honestly. I'm just knowing. And, Utah week 1. Negative 14 odds.
Well, I got to think the money line's not going to pay out too much.
It's not. But if you put all that in a parlay, 100 would pay 691.
Yeah, you could do that.
Right. Could.
I'm telling you, it's most likely not going to happen.
You're right. The parlays they're not guaranteed. But nothing's really guaranteed in gambling. I mean, it can be. Sometimes it's very specialized knowledge. It is.
So it sounds like you play everything, Amari.
Honestly, I really do play everything. Have you ever heard of Parlay P?
No.
He's famous for placing parlays and winning big. He has a lot of followers. He has thousands, actually. Okay. He's a millionaire himself.
All right. Does he actually show his record?
He does. He actually does show his record. I know that there's actual people who don't, and they're actually scammers and things. Like I can name some people who are scammers. Cody Covers, he's one. That's what might as well name drop. he's known because whenever you don't have your comments on, whenever you're live on Instagram or just whenever you post, that's a red flag. Parlay P actually, he goes live and he talks to his customers, and
Okay. Well, my picks are out there every week during the season,
great. And you give them for free.
So I can't get around that. They're on video, so. You can't, I can't scam anyone or lie about my picks. And we've got a guy, Amari, that does our Patreon. He's with Wager Talk, and he went 13-1 against the spread. He gave us one exclusive pick, under the radar pick, every week last year, 13-1 against the spread.
Wow, 13-1 against the spread.
Our guy, Steve Merrill from Wager Talk.
Shout out to Steve Merrill.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Because I need more experts, honestly. I definitely need more betting experts. This is like I really want to say my second year going into this, really my third, but not with the actual team and not having foundation around me, just other experts and just be following more people's picks. Yeah, usually I just bet them or I just trust my own knowledge, but now this is here to really win big.
Well, Amari, be here during college football season. We'll give you picks.
I will 100%. That's crazy that y'all get free. That's really great. If I win big, whenever I win big, I'm going to remember this show. I'm going to tip. I'm going to give, certain things like that. Just because, I don't know if anyone else is to y'all. If somebody else was to go 13-1 and they followed y'all's picks and give y'all any credit, that's not great.
Now, we're not guaranteeing 13-1 every year. I'm just telling you.
Right.
That's what it was last year.
It's likely. I think y'all are going to do better this year. Y'all might go 20-0, honestly. Okay. Because, I know how it can be.
Thanks, Amari. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thank y'all. Yes, sir. I'm going to see you soon. Let's have a great year.
Sounds good, man.
Season. Yes, sir.
All right. New callers. We love it. Love to have the new callers here. And we love the old callers as well. Got Michigan fan Mike here. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, Mark. Oh, I'm not a new caller?
No, you're not a new caller. You're an old, boring caller. No, we love you, Mike.
I admit that. I am very boring.
No. I didn't mean boring like you're boring, but, it's a little refreshing to get some new callers. Although, as soon as Amari hit me with NBA games and baseball games, I was like, What did he think he found here?
I
But,
admit I don't watch NBA or baseball anymore. I used to, but
oh, I did too. I watched more baseball than I can imagine just about anybody watching us right now.
yeah, I grew up on baseball. I remember the old days of back in the mid '90s when Sosa and McGuire were chasing history.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And I did want to kind of spout off against Tennessee, though. I mean, I've made no qualms back that I do not like Tennessee, dating back to the '97 talks. When Fulmer's part in our split national championship. But I thought this was kind of just desserts because, and I said in the chat, I don't like sticking up for Ohio State guys, but I thought that Tennessee came off as very hypocritical because I remember how dirty they did Greg Schiano when he was getting ready to go take that job in Knoxville. And they were talking all sorts of morality stuff, and then it turns out this happens.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to know what these UT alum, UT fans think about that because I mean they thought that they were getting some sort of great guy and that Schiano was persona non grata, and it turns out that Heupel's just he's a poser.
Are we talking about Heupel or Jeremy Pruitt?
I'm sorry, Pruitt. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on Heupel.
Well,
I
don't
just
know.
Yeah, I meant Pruitt. Now, didn't I won't go there, but I'm kind of wondering where DeReal is. I mean, I wouldn't think that he's much of a Tennessee fan. I mean, aren't Kentucky and Tennessee semi-rivals?
Oh yeah, they are legitimate rivals.
I was kind of curious as to what he thought about it because, like I said, a lot of this is me not being a fan of Tennessee.
Well, you're not a fan of Philip Fulmer. Is there anything else that Tennessee has done?
Well, it's mostly due to that, and well, I'm also not a big fan of Archie and Peyton because I remember Archie stumping for his son. Which I mean, I guess he can do that as a father, but in my mind, Charles Woodson was clearly the Heisman winner. I know Peyton put up some good numbers, but that shouldn't have been a contest. I thought there were a lot of people that were thinking that Peyton Manning was going to win. I think they were buying into hypes.
Well, I thought that he was going to win.
Why? Did you watch Woodson that year?
What kind of question is that, Mike?
He was clearly the best player in football. I mean,
Well, the best player in football doesn't always win the Heisman Trophy. No, I'm not talking about who should have won the Heisman. I'm talking about that it surprised me who did win.
Well, I think it always goes to the best person. And I think a lot of this is because most people consider it a quarterback award.
Exactly. That's why I expected Peyton Manning to win. Or it's a skill position on offense award. It's an offense award. No defender had ever won it. So why should it be surprising to you that I was surprised that Peyton Manning did not win the Heisman?
Well, he was also a special teams, he was a fantastic special teams guy. I mean, I could go back to that interception against Michigan State that I still don't understand how he got that. The kickback against Ohio State, which I replay in my head so often. I mean, he was very versatile, and plus, he played a little bit off. He wasn't known for it, but he did play some offensive plays. So, I mean, he was clearly the best player. I hate getting into the idea that it always has to go to the quarterback. I mean, if the quarterback is throwing up gaudy numbers and there's, no running back, no wide receiver, or God forbid, a defensive lineman with 20-something sacks, I get it, but he wasn't the best in that year. Like I said, I can't stand the hypocrisy coming from Tennessee, and I think that I'm worried that there's going to be a lot of SEC guys that think that the Big Ten's had their share of scandals, which they have, that the SEC's kind of lily white. I mean, every major program is going to have some dark shadows. And it seems like the SEC, at least of recent memory, hasn't been nailed down with too many of them. Probably the last major one I can think of is the Hugh Freeze over at Ole Miss.
Yes.
But I mean,
That was quite a long time ago,
it was. And like I said, I remember,
relatively speaking.
yeah, and I remember Alabama's, had their name dragged in the mud. I remember when they were like selling textbooks there. And
Alabama, Auburn, LSU,
Yep.
Georgia. Well,
Yeah,
Georgia,
Georgia
has
now.
a serious mess going on right now.
Yeah. So I guess I'm kind of wanting, things to kind of cool down in the Big Ten because, like I said, we have our warts, but I think there's a lot of fans from other conferences that seem to think that the Big Ten is just a criminal conference while everybody else is just pure snow.
Well, I guess I will stand up right now for the Pac-12. Not too much out of the Pac-12 is coming to mind outside of USC and Reggie Bush.
Yeah, I was going to say that
A
the
little bit of
Pac-12 does
Arizona
seem.
State here recently.
I was about ready to say the Pac-12 does seem to come off a little bit clean. I think it's just because that there's not a lot of eyes on them. The SEC and the Big Ten tend to draw the ire of more people. Pac-12 kind of flies under the radar. I mean, I don't think that any of their schools are necessarily bad. I just think that there's not so much focus on them as there is conferences that play mostly in the Eastern and Central
That's
time
your
zones.
deduction, Mike?
You
You might be right, but you're making a large assumption.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, a lot of a life is an assumption, and I'm not gonna sit there and say I can prove any of it, but it's the same reason why TV ratings are what they are. The Pac-12 kind of flies under the radar. They're not looked at as much. They're kind of an
by
afterthought.
people, by the fans. I don't know that has much to do with what the NCAA is doing.
Well, I don't think the NCAA could find a legitimate violation with GPS and a flashlight. They basically just have to get tipped off. Do they really do any type of investigation without basically getting handheld through it?
Yeah, that I don't know. That I don't know for sure, but I think it's generally believed that they always get tipped off.
I mean, I guess if that's all they're if they're more reactionary than pro.
Well, how are they supposed to be proactive? How else would they just go make regular document checks at every school?
Well, I have a background in auditing, so I guess it makes more sense to me. But you can kind of do your own digging. I mean, some obviously a lot of tipping off, but you should be able to keep track of the schools without needing some sort of whistleblower.
Well, right on cue, the real MVP is on the line, and he would like to join this call.
Okay.
So we get the real MVP here.
Hello, Mike. Hello, Mark. How you guys doing this evening?
Doing well, sir.
Good.
How are you?
Doing well. Oh, I heard Mike's comment about what do I think, so that's why I jumped in this call. I mean, I'm shocked. A team with cheating football and athletics. I mean, who would have foreseen this coming? I mean, it's not like this has happened throughout all of human history that people cheat to try to gain an advantage or anything like that. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, we have known about this, especially this, for a long time. We've been waiting for this for how long? 3 or 4 years.
I know. I was just being sarcastic, Mark.
I know
hope
you're being sarcastic, and I'm saying we've been waiting for this to come down for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I never expected you to be sarcastic.
I think Tennessee deserved a bowl ban personally. At least 1 year bowl ban. If you're cheating, then you should not be allowed to play in postseason for the next year. That's just my opinion. But I don't think this is fair to characterize this situation and compare it to what happened at Northwestern. I mean, cheating versus Northwestern are two completely different things.
Oh, no, yeah, you won't hear any argument from that.
Yeah, there's mistreatment of people, and then there's cheating. Basically, we can put all these NCAA violations with all these schools into two categories. One involves abuse of people and criminal type violations, versus the other one has to do with cheating to gain an advantage to win games.
Right, and I they're both obviously immoral, but I think one is certainly immoral. And I think there's this perception out there. Now, I don't know if it's backed by reality, but there's this perception that the Big Ten crosses the immoral line or has more known immoral allegations that have happened recently than the SEC.
True.
Yeah.
That we know of, yes. But also understand, as soon as you make a statement like that, the immoral activity that we generally find out about is years and years and years in the past. So who knows what's going on right now that we're going to find out in 12 years happened.
Oh, you're exactly right, Mark. I mean, obviously, hopefully not, but obviously some immoral actions could happen against any SEC program. And if they do, I think the same thing that should happen to Penn State, give them the death penalty. I mean, it shouldn't be tolerated in any such way, immoral actions.
Well,
like what happened.
They can't get the death penalty because they're not a repeat offender. This was a one-off. Because, I mean, if you look at the NCAA rule, it's actually, Mark, I think it's called like the repeat violators clause or something.
Yes.
So it wasn't like, Penn State was, doing naughty stuff. They were told by the NCAA to stop, and then they just kept going. So, I mean, I can't disagree with you that, Penn State should have gotten some serious stuff, but you can't do the death penalty when that's not what the death penalty was for.
Yeah, I guess you're just go harsh, though. Go super harsh. Make it known that this is an intolerable action, that you will face severe consequences.
Agree. Because, I mean, you don't, especially because it's violent, plus it's against children. I mean, those are two major strikes. I honestly think the children being the worst part. I mean, I don't think there should have been, like, with the Northwestern stuff, these were college kids. I mean, it wasn't good. But the optics of it when it's happening to 19, 20-year-olds isn't nearly as bad as when it's happening to somebody that's like 10 or 11.
No. Because although there are victims in the Northwestern situation, those victims, and I'm not saying that they should be expected to speak out, but they certainly have that opportunity. They certainly can act like adults and do something about it and go to the proper authorities, like what happened finally, as opposed to children. Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering how it, with the case of Northwestern, I mean, what was the delay? I mean, I don't know if it's speculation or not. Was the administration like behind a cover up, like with Penn State?
Yeah, I don't know that. I know that we're talking about this going on as early as when?
Yeah, and I heard some, as early, I think the earliest date I heard was like 2008 or something. Which, that would kind of bother me. Because, I mean, I guess I don't like it whenever these, academic institutions, want to sweep things under the rug. Because it really puts bad faith into a lot of people's minds. I mean, who can you trust now?
Right. It's just a horrible situation all around, and a disgusting one at that, to be honest with you. It's honestly sad that we even have to talk about it all, that this type of thing could happen in the first place.
Yeah.
But I want to transition to some actual college football, if that's okay with you two, gentlemen.
Please do. Please do. I don't even care to talk about this Tennessee situation. I know it's a big deal, and I know I should read through it and really get a grasp of, but I know what happened, and I know how they cheated and what they did. They basically paid players, and there were at least 16 of them. And I'm tending to believe that if 16 were caught, then there were more. And those were the penalties. Now, the last thing I will say about this before we move on to real football, is that the money fine is taking place of the bowl ban. And if you think about it, the players participating right now are not the same players that participated in these issues. So that's what I hate, is the people that are at fault move on, they go do other things, and unless they want to stay in collegiate athletics, they're not being penalized. And it's the people that are left behind that are penalized by playing on inferior football teams and not going to postseason play and having, and even the innocent players that were involved, their wins are taken away from them. Although, again, how many games did Jeremy Pruitt really win? They can be taken away.
I remember I think one of the seasons under Pruitt, didn't they go winless in the conference? Like 0-8?
They went 3-7 in the COVID year, so those were all SEC games, and that was his final season. I'm trying to think, 2019.
I want to say something like 2017 or something. They went like 0-8.
He went 16-19, and if he went 3-7, then he went 13 and let me do the math, 12, 13 and 12 in the other games. I usually have these records at the top of my brain, but I don't. So he was about 500 in those other two seasons.
Yeah, 'cause I remember one year. I mean, they were losing like Vanderbilt in Kentucky. No offense, DeReal.
None taken. None taken.
Yeah, this was. In fact, I think this was pre-Stoops, wasn't it?
No.
No.
Stoops has been there 10 years,
No.
I thought he's only.
I doubt it.
I thought he's been there like 7 or 8.
No.
No, Stoops is actually the second longest active coach in the SEC behind Saban.
Okay, it's all coming back to me now. Yeah. His first team went 5-7, and then they had the 8-5 year. They beat Indiana in the Gator Bowl, and then they went 3-7. He got fired.
Okay. Yeah, he wasn't that great of a coach, but
No, he's a horrible head coach. Obviously, both on the field and off the field, he's a horrible coach, and he's an excellent defensive coordinator. And right now, he's in the NFL, and he's tucked away, making plenty of money, but it's not going to come back at him unless he decides to come back to college football.
Yeah, didn't you say he was show caused?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. I would like to be able to punish the perpetrators that were involved, but the thing is that the NCAA can't. They don't have the reach.
No.
So I mean, basically, the closest thing you can do is if it's a case of lack of institutional control, you just punish the institution.
And in this case, you can't punish Jeremy Pruitt unless it crosses the line, the Northwestern, Penn State, etc., becomes a criminal matter. This is not. This is breaking rules.
And I would say that, maybe, it should, kind of push them to, help the vetting process. But if memory serves, wasn't Tennessee at that time basically just putting up Craigslist ads to get somebody to coach in Knoxville? I mean, I remember, didn't they ask like 6 or 7 people that basically told them to kick rocks?
Yeah, they were going through quite the run of coaches. Yeah, that were basically telling them exactly that. Why, can't say I really know, because they do have a ton of money and it's a great tradition. But DeReal, you wanted to get us going on something else.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about some actual football, if that's okay with you two gentlemen.
Go for it.
One of the things I had talked that got Mike upset was my 1% Michigan comment. And I was thinking somewhere along those veins, what do we think about teams like Notre Dame and Florida State? Do they even have a 1% chance anymore? Or should we just completely write them off with a 0% chance?
With Notre Dame's schedule?
Yeah.
I think 1% is massively generous.
Wait a minute, Mike. Whoa, 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 whoa. Michigan has a what percentage chance of winning the national championship?
For me? You
Yes.
talking about me? 15?
15. And Notre Dame does not even have a 1% chance.
Look at our schedules. I mean, you want to pull up the Notre Dame schedule?
15-1 difference between Notre Dame and Michigan. No, I can't buy that.
Well, like I said, Michigan's basically going to enter into the final game 11-0. I mean, I don't see anything that's poised to snatch us. Then we get, Ohio State on. So the odds are likely that we're going to go 12-0. So, I mean, the odds of us making the playoffs, what, 80%?
Actually, the odds are not in favor
Yeah.
of you going 12-0.
I would put it like a 25% chance Michigan goes 12-0.
Yeah, it's a strong possibility. It's stronger than just about anybody in the country, but it's not a probability. It's not a probability that anybody goes undefeated except maybe Georgia, because they're not playing anybody this year.
Well, they also go in a harder conference. Yeah, I mean, their schedule isn't much better than ours. But, they're...
Georgia's not playing Ohio State and Penn State.
Well, they are playing... I
They're
guess...
playing who?
Well, I mean,
Tennessee,
they got to play
South
Carolina. South Carolina. Kentucky. Well, I don't know how good Kentucky's going to be.
Mike, you're sounding like an SEC guy. You're usually on
No.
here beating the drum for the Big Ten. Now you're telling me that South Carolina and Tennessee are better than Ohio State and Penn State.
Okay, I see where you're getting at. I think Georgia's probably has the highest likelihood of making the playoffs, but I would say that we're probably third. I'd
Third.
put
Okay.
USC as second.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I would say Georgia's got the highest. Then I'd say USC, then Michigan, then what? Maybe Texas.
See, Texas is a weird one. I almost want to put them second, just because of how the gap between them and everybody else in their conference. But if they were Oklahoma, even, I think everybody would automatically pick them to be in the playoffs. It's just the history is what's going against Texas.
Yeah, I mean they've had talented teams before that just didn't pan out.
We need to have a show, and we need to run down what games are the most likely crazy wild upsets. And I know that's an oxymoron, being a likely, but every year there are, actually every weekend in college football, there are double-digit upsets. Almost every week there are double-digit upsets. Now, most of those are inconsequential toward the playoff, but many of them are. And if we look at the last 5 years, we could pick a number of games that nobody saw coming. And the reason my thought was sparked in this direction was I saw Porter's comment in the chat that Georgia is going to Auburn. Those are the kind of games I'm talking about that nobody's giving anybody a chance at winning.
Well, Mark, I'll give you one.
Okay?
Duke could be Clemson, first week of the schedule.
I know a lot of people that are watching that game.
Where's the game?
At
That's
Duke.
It's
Okay.
at Duke.
Clemson.
The
at
12-point spread, currently somewhere around there.
Okay. Only 12. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what game I like? I like in November, Florida State goes to Pitt.
Might be interesting.
Mike, do you have a game?
I would have to look at the schedule of certain. I think probably the most likely upset, like major upset I can think of off the top of my head is I think I think I had Washington losing to, I think it was Arizona State, was it?
Ooh.
It was either Arizona or Arizona State. I can't remember which one. But it seems like, in my recent memory, all these, or a good chunk of these head-scratching upsets come from the Pac. The Pac has this real knack of kind of self-cannibalizing.
Well, before last season, it had been a while since the Pac-12 had anybody worth a damn at the top of the league that really impacted the playoff anyway.
Love the shot you just took on the Pac-12, Mark. Search in the comments saying Cal could beat USC.
Okay, that's one to go for. I'm going to clear the way here,
Yeah.
and we'll.
Yeah, that
we'll
was
get,
it. It was it was the Arizona game.
You
September
guys have
30th.
to apologize. I'm going to be behind on the graphics. When you guys bring up teams and schedules, it takes me a while to get there. Arizona State. Oh, at
Yeah, it's
Arizona.
Arizona, September 30th. Only because
and then the other the other thing is, as soon as the top 25, the AP top 25 is released, we will get on here, and we know that last season 13 of those 25 did not finish ranked. Now that's high. It's usually about 8 or 9. But we need to find 8 or 9 teams in the initial preseason top 25 that will not finish in the top 25.
And you say you don't have the 25 right now?
Well, I don't know. I can come up with 25, but I'm talking about the AP top 25.
When does
Right.
it come out?
Oh,
Usually-
maybe, what, about
About a
2-3
month
weeks
before?
before the season starts?
Yeah, Texas A&M was
Yeah.
what, 6th in the country starting the season, and they didn't finish ranked. So, what
They
is
didn't
it?
finish
Usually one
500.
top 10 team. Yeah, I know. Usually one top 10 team, something like that, doesn't finish ranked. And if I had to take a gamble this year, I would go with Florida State being that team. They kind of
really?
remind me.
Hmm.
Yeah, they remind me a lot of NC State from last year, where they were getting a bunch of hype in the offseason, but then just completely whiffed. I mean, I wasn't sold on the way Florida played their big games. They had that 3-game losing stretch.
Everybody remember this. When the AP top 25 comes out, we got to search for those teams that are not going to finish in the top 25. And to Real's point, we need to find a couple teams in the top 10 that will not finish ranked, period.
I could throw one out, but it's not going to be popular.
Throw it out.
Notre Dame.
Okay.
I think Notre Dame could very well be a 8-4 team. Now that might still get them ranked.
Yeah.
8-4 is going to be on the cusp.
Well,
But-
you're right there, Mike, because they've got Clemson, Ohio State, USC right there. That could be a 3-game sweep, and then they trip up somewhere else.
Yeah, I can say their schedule is not favored. That's why I didn't really have them in the conversation for the playoffs.
Now, USC's going to Notre Dame, and they've got Utah. People are high on this Cal game for some reason. They go to Oregon. That stretch, once they play Notre Dame on the road, Notre Dame, Utah, Cal, Washington, Oregon, UCLA, that's going to be tough for them to navigate
Well,
those 6 consecutive games.
Washington's at home, UCLA's at home, Utah's at home. I mean, their schedule is hand-picked.
It's hand-picked.
I mean,
Well, basically, anybody in the division, they alternate home and road.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is.
yeah, and USC has a like a lot of teams, they have a hard season, easy season, hard season. This is their easy season by far. I don't think Oregon is going to be as much of a factor in the Pac-12 as some other teams. I'm not high on Utah because, I mean, do we even know if Cam Rising is even going to start the season?
I
We
think
don't.
that was confirmed a few weeks ago. He was going to start
That
against
he
Florida.
is. Okay.
Oh, he is? Okay. Now, can
Yeah,
he
I don't
stay
know what
healthy?
percentage he is, but I've heard that.
And can he stay healthy?
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Mike, I think this schedule is more difficult for USC than last year's schedule. They did
Really?
not play Washington last year. They did not play Oregon last year, and they played all the other teams that they have to play in their division, of course, and they have to go to Notre Dame this year.
And I'm also, well, I also said I'm on the record as I don't think Notre Dame is going to be the team that a lot of people think they are.
Well,
Right, I
I
mean,
think
what-
they're at least as good as they were last year.
I mean, no offense, Mike, but you might be lower on the Pac-12 than me. I mean, you look at the back half of that schedule. There's 3, 4 top 15 teams in there.
What, starting with Notre Dame?
Yeah, Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
USC's schedule is definitely backloaded. I mean, the first 6 games are borderline gimmies. But like I said, I noticed that all their tough games are at home. Utah's at home, Washington's at home, UCLA's at home.
Right, but there's going to be some residual damage because they're playing one after the next after the next. It's not like they get a one and then 2 weeks and then they play another. They got to play them back to back to back.
Well, they got a little bit of break there going to Berkeley.
Right, but they play 5 out of 6 really tough games to end the year.
Yeah.
If USC is the playoff contender, Mike, that you say they're going to be, and if people are concerned about them playing Cal, then that's like saying people should be concerned about Ohio State playing Indiana.
Yeah, neither one of them should be concerned.
All right, folks. Folks in the chat, give us upsets. I mean major upsets, because there will be some. So you find them. We're going to bring our buddy Porter into the conversation. Porter, how you doing tonight?
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
So
Good evening.
Am I joining this august group?
Yes. Mike, you're going to have to step it up. It's the SEC 2-on-1 over the Big Ten right now.
That's right. Jarrell, we're like the Freebirds back in the day of wrestling. We're going to tag team this thing. How's that sound?
Bring your A game.
Love the reference, Porter. Love the reference.
Do you remember the Freebirds back in the day?
Oh, a while back ago. But what did you want to talk about tonight?
Yes, John is letting us know. Yes, Mark is officially doing a panel. I typically hate doing panels, but hey, it's a Friday night. And before I cut you guys loose, here's a couple upsets. UCF over Oklahoma, UConn over NC State week 1. Okay.
Okay, my upset is, guys, I'm going to go all the way to the last game of the season, or last week of the season. I'm going to go FSU comes into the swamp and goes down.
Okay.
I would be really surprised about that. I mean, I think they're on a collision course with what, 4-8.
Yeah, but Florida was pretty bad last year, and they almost beat Florida State.
Oh yeah, it was a good game.
Well, think about their games at home. How hard they are to beat at home. They beat the Pac-12 champion last year at home.
Well, I guess
You are
that's
talking
kind of the
the
case.
Reals game right now.
Go ahead.
It's basically it's kind of like the occasional Richardson sighting. He's a substandard quarterback, but once in a while, Utah, I think it was Tennessee. Once in a while he'll play an above average game. He'll play above his means. I don't see this happening. I mean, but that's why they call it an upset.
Well, and also you look at what South Carolina did at the end of the year, right before they beat the tar out of
Nobody saw that one coming.
Tennessee. They went down to the swamp and got absolutely embarrassed. So Florida's hard to beat down there, and I would not be surprised if it's a 10-1 FSU team that comes down there and gets beat. That game in Tallahassee last year, if you remember it, I think it was on a Friday night. That was a pretty close game from what I remember. It was back and forth, and that was a 10-win Florida State team going against a a 6-win Florida team.
Yes.
And so, anyway, that's one of my upsets. Now, what you were talking about earlier about Tennessee, in this day and age, I don't see the NCAA hammering anybody, especially anybody in the SEC, because they know that the days of laying the hammer to an Alabama or someone like that in the SEC, like they did back in the '90s, it's just not going to fly because those conferences are too powerful. So I'm not surprised that Tennessee got off relatively easy, and because the NCAA just doesn't have that kind of they don't have that power anymore.
Well, the other component here is this may be the last pre-NIL issue that we see come to light.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got NIL. And not that you can't violate NIL, but it's difficult to catch those violations because it can always be, you can cook the books in the right direction to say, hey, it was all above board. It was all NIL generated.
Well, and two, and again, sorry, I don't mean to monopolize the conversation. So, but I want to make this one point before you move on to something else, Mark. Along those same lines is with NIL and how lenient we've gotten with paying players. Don't you think it's time that we give Reggie Bush back his Heisman?
Is that like Pete Rose, just because we feel sorry for him, that he should be allowed in the Hall? Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand that line of thinking. Okay, if there's no remorse, there's no admittance to guilt. We're just supposed to, like, there's just an expiration on doing something wrong. And I believe in forgiveness, but at least repent for your forgiveness.
Well,
Yep.
if they don't let Bush have his Heisman, why does Cam Newton have his? I mean, of the two, between Bush and Newton, Cam deserves his Heisman much less than Reggie Bush.
Why?
Oh, Cam was massively shopped. Not to mention, the laptop incident at Florida. I mean, he's got a lot of dirt on him. I mean, I think Bush's violations are much less egregious than Cam's, but Cam still has his.
Okay.
But I don't think it was ever proven. That's the problem.
Oh, come on.
Auburn. Well, no, listen. I mean, Auburn did it's like comparing Barry Bonds to Pete Rose. I mean, people say Barry Bonds juiced. We all could see it. We all have a brain, but it was never proven. And it's the same thing with
Dad.
Auburn.
Well,
I think Cam's dad admitted to shopping him.
They verified shipments of. It's been so long. What was that stuff called? Anyway, shipments of all of that juicing to all the cream and everything else to Barry Bonds.
But my point is, if you get into a bunker mentality and you just deny everything the way Auburn did back in 2010, Auburn did I mean, as much as I hate those guys, I mean, it's one of the dirtiest programs ever, consistently. You go back in time, but they did a masterful job of just denying everything, and they waited it out. And he did his 1 year, and he got out of there. As long as you deny it and everybody's on the same page, you can get away with a lot of stuff. Not just in college football, but also in baseball, to use those examples.
Well, if memory serves, I think Cam's father admitted it. Plus, you had multiple guys at Mississippi State pretty much laying out the red carpet on how it happened.
Yeah, but who did he admit it to? Who did Cam's father admit it to?
I mean, he admitted it to the public at large, didn't he? Or some reporter or some.
See,
some
that's
source.
But that's just it. You're using a source that. Hey, I heard that Reverend, I forget his Reverend Newton, which he is a reverend here in South Metro Atlanta, or he was at one time, was shopping him around. That's just common knowledge. It was never proven. You got to prove stuff like that for any kind of NCAA to ever bring any kind of sanction. So, like I said, Auburn did a masterful job of just denying everything. So, and whereas Southern Cal. I'm not sure how the Southern Cal thing happened. I'm not sure how the information got out there. I don't know if they admitted it, fell on the sword. I don't know what it is, but they're both of them should be able to keep their Heisman, because right now, and I don't know what the jurisprudence or the law term is, but if you pass a law and that law, and somebody's in jail for a law that for a law that they broke, then you get out of jail, right?
Okay, so you're telling us because NIL currently exists that wipes out those violations.
Well, how is that different than if someone suddenly legalizes marijuana and somebody's in jail for marijuana, they get out of jail? It's the same
I'm not
thing.
arguing with you. I'm just clarifying.
It's the same kind of thing. You
I don't-
can't
yeah, but
enforce something that.
That's not why Reggie Bush was paid, though. He wasn't paid under current NIL guidelines. He was just handed money.
I understand that, but he was handed money by boosters, right? It wasn't through the school, right?
True.
Well, if you're handed money by boosters, how is that any different than today?
Oh,
It's just
He didn't do anything to earn it. There was nothing received on the other end by the boosters.
I can't think of a lot of instances where the administration is unknowledgeable about what their boosters do. There's usually some sort of tie there, unless there is some really secret society going on.
yeah, but see, you're connecting the dots and just assuming that that's common knowledge. You can't do that. You can't just assume this and that. And you have to have concrete proof before you can either put somebody on NCAA probation or take someone's Heisman away. That's my point.
Well, I mean, I don't think
we
his
all
Heisman should be taken away.
I know we all have brains and we all have eyes. But at the same time, unless it's proven, you can't take that extra step and put someone on probation or take someone's Heisman away. And that's why Cam has his. So anyway, I go ahead. I'm sorry.
So basically, you can't be found guilty unless there's pretty much incriminating photographs or something.
Well, if there's no solid proof, you can't say, "Well, I heard somebody on message board said this, so we should take someone's Heisman away." You can't use innuendo to do something like that.
So as long as you don't see Cam Newton with a bag of cash, he's clean.
As long as he doesn't admit to it, and there's no evidence that he received it, and you have to realize the NCAA does not have subpoena power. They can't just go into his bank account
Exactly.
if it was deposited.
That's the issue right there. I was just going to say, on one account, if we're talking about criminal violations, then it's so much easier
Yep.
for the feds and other law enforcement to catch criminals today than it was years ago, because everything's electronic. There's records on everything. But yes, this is not criminal activity, so the NCAA cannot, as Porter outlined, have subpoena power.
So, anyway, Darrell, you're kind of quiet.
Yeah, this just isn't a topic I care that much about.
Yeah,
So
I know.
I mean, I like talking about things that are currently happening, like Michigan having a 1% chance to win it all, or how Notre Dame has a 0% chance, or Florida State also has that 0% chance, in my opinion. So,
I give Michigan 20% chance, 1 in 5.
There you
1
go.
in 5.
That's even higher than me.
1 in 5.
I'd give them that percentage just to beat Ohio State right now.
Oh God!
Darrell.
Okay.
All right.
So in the last 2 games we've outscored them by 37 points. This game coming up is in Ann Arbor, and you think that Ohio State is 80% likely to win?
Yeah, that's cute, but that doesn't matter now. It's about what's going forward. It doesn't matter what happened 2 years ago. It doesn't matter what happened last year.
Okay. And
It's a streaky series.
their quarterback just got drafted 2nd overall. There's a huge question mark there. I guess we're going to find out how good Kyle McCord really is, but there are so many
you
questions.
Also know the history about what you're talking about right there.
Go on. What history are we talking about?
The history is that there's not been an Ohio State quarterback since the year 2000 who has not played for championships, meaning that the history tells us that Kyle McCord is going to be everything that he needs to be. Meaning
As a
that
freshman?
CJ Stroud had never played a game. Justin Fields had never started a game. Dwayne Haskins had never started a game. JT Barrett had never started a game. Braxton Miller had never started. And all these guys did was play for top 5 teams that competed for national championships. And I could go on before that.
Well, Miller's and Barrett's team were much better than this current one.
Better than this Ohio State team.
Yes.
No.
I don't think
Miller's teams weren't.
He didn't have a receiving core like what he's got. I mean, this receiving core is stacked.
I mean, well, Ohio State's always had receivers, so that's kind of a push. But I remember Miller's and Barrett's teams actually played defense.
Mike, you have every right to back and boast about Michigan based on what's happened the last 2 years. And don't be surprised if my prediction reflects, my final season prediction reflects that I believe Michigan could still be the better team within the context of the Big Ten schedule and win the Big Ten, but Ohio State is more prepared and more equipped to win a national championship.
Well,
just like what we saw last season.
Well, the other thing is that you can't win something you don't play in.
Yeah, but what happened last year?
Yeah, a Michigan fan saying that is quite ironic.
All I know is that if USC didn't crap the bed against Utah in the Pac-12 championship, Ohio State doesn't get a chance to almost win it with a field goal.
I mean, could we not play that with every single team in the country?
Just about.
Okay.
I mean, if back in 2017, if Ohio State doesn't get blown out, what was it, Mark, against Iowa?
55-24. Yes.
Then Alabama doesn't even get in the playoff. So I mean, we could say that about every year, about every team, just about. So. And believe me, as a Georgia fan, I wish Bama had not gotten into that playoff in 2017 because they broke our heart. So,
it stings a little bit more when it's the last game of the season.
SEC dog, by the way, I have no idea what you're talking about. What Ohio State team, Mr. Rogers? 52 years, sir. Every single year since I was born, we hear this OSU BS every year, sir. I don't know what you're talking about. Ohio State has delivered national championship competitive teams more consistently than anybody in college football over the span in which you're talking about. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Can I translate that?
Yes.
For you, Mark? Ohio State fans, and there seems to be this running thing where they like to think they're the king of college footballs despite winning 2 titles in the last 52 years. Yeah, and since he's a Georgia fan, I mean, just winning 2 titles doesn't feel like a whole lot of accolades because they won 2 titles in the last 2 years.
These stupid national championships.
Stupid. That's what we play for.
Would we play for national championships? Absolutely. But most of them are so tarnished in this sport that I got to tell you, yes, do I want Ohio State to win the national championship? Absolutely. Do I think that that's an objective measurement of what's going on in college football? To a degree.
What do you mean? That's what I mean, this is what the playoff era is supposed to be about.
Does Ohio State have to acknowledge or in any way disclaim they have the best winning percentage and they're competing for national championships every year? That's all I'm talking about. I didn't declare. Whoa. I didn't make SEC dog. I didn't make some declarative statement that Ohio State's going to win the national championship this year for you to respond, I hear this BS every year. All I said was they will most likely compete for a national championship. They freaking almost compete for a national championship every year. That's all I said.
You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a Buffalo Bills fan in the mid-'90s. That's what it sounds like. We almost made it. We almost won it. We almost did it, but we can't quite do it. And I think that's where the question.
And Ohio State did have a run there where the Big 2 Little 10 or Big 2 Little 8 in that time became the Big 1 Little 9 because Michigan just we weren't on Ohio State's level. So there was a period of about close to 20 years where Ohio State was king of the pile. There was really nobody.
Sandra's commenting here. Sandra, we have heard her comment, and I appreciate Sandra being here. We've never engaged in a conversation, so I don't know how old Sandra is. She's obviously 8 years old.
I was going to say they won in 14.
Ohio State win a national championship. So Sandra, I know that you're only 8 years old, but prior to your birth, Ohio State won a national championship in 2014, and they played for another one in 2020. So just do it.
Yeah.
And unless she's in high school, she was alive for 2 of them.
So,
yeah, I don't understand. Listen, I'm as a Georgia grad, I'm not. I'm not really. I'm not. It's weird for someone to defend Ohio State, but it's someone that likes the sport and appreciates the sport. I mean, Mark's right about everything he's saying. I mean, they've played for a national championship. Other than the 1980s, I think that's the only decade they have not played for a national championship. I think, is that right, Mark? Maybe the 90s too, though. What do you think?
well, in the 90s, they finished number 2 twice. They finished in the top 5 several times. They were competing for national championships. They didn't win one, of course, in the 90s.
Yeah, my thing is Ohio State has got it done. I mean, they went down to the Sugar Bowl, beat Bama in a classic game. For them, I guess the programs that get to me, and this may be a little controversial, but the 2 that are coming into the SEC, I just think they're coming in with overinflated accolades, if you ask me. Texas,
I agree with that, Porter. I mean, Texas
to me,
is
Oklahoma is a regional power. I know people say they're a blue blood national power. They're not a national power.
Well, they've been in the playoffs multiple times.
Well, they're 0-4 in the playoff.
Oh, okay, yeah, I admit that they haven't been able to cut it, but
and the last 3
punched
times,
their ticket.
The last 3 times they give absolutely embarrassed in there. The last 2 national championships in 1985, they get absolutely killed by Miami. Troy Aikman breaks his ankle, and somehow they manage to get back into the national championship game and beat a very average Penn State team, and somehow get national champions. Then in 2000, they avoid Miami. I'm not gonna say if ands or buts like other people do. I'm just gonna say they avoid playing Miami, and then win a national championship in 2000. So my point is, Oklahoma has over the past 25 years really hasn't done much that impresses me, other than win conference championships. And to me,
and we know you love conference championships.
What's that?
And we know you love conference championships, Porter.
I don't like conference championships because you can't compare all the conferences.
Porter, that was sarcasm.
I would be much kinder to Oklahoma than that, because
wait a minute.
In 1985, they matched up against the only undefeated team in the country to win a national championship, Penn State. So we can acknowledge how good Penn State was. Penn State still went and won the national championship the next season. The 2000 team, let's understand, nobody chooses who they play, so they didn't avoid Miami. They did not play Miami. They played a team that beat Miami in the national championship game and won. And I think, Porter, we can agree that Oklahoma has had an excellent program under Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley, and they have been, maybe even more so than Ohio State, the team that has dominated its conference more so than any in the last 20 years.
Yep.
But yes, on the national stage in the last 15 plus years, whether it's been Florida or Alabama or Georgia or LSU or fill in the blank, Boise State even, they have tripped up and looked awful in most of their big moments in the last 15 years.
Well, my point is, if you can't win a national championship, 2000 was how many years ago? Was that 23? 23 years ago. Yeah, they won a national championship, but yet they're considered this blue blood. And I know Notre Dame's working on it even longer. drought. I understand that. And Penn State has.
Porter, do you know what blue blood means?
Well, I mean, I'm getting Darrell. I'm getting to that. Believe me.
I was going to say, teams that claim they're blue bloods usually aren't good right now. I mean, just look at Nebraska. Look at Notre Dame. I mean, those teams don't have a chance, in my opinion, to win the national title anytime soon. That's why they claim blue blood status.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't hear Michigan fans claiming blue blood status. You don't hear Ohio State fans claiming blue blood status right now because they're good right now. They can win it this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you guys are blue bloods, but your fans don't go around bragging that you're blue bloods because there's no reason to. You've got a great team right now. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but
it speaks for itself.
Exactly.
Back to Oklahoma, I mean, they were in a conference for 40, 50 years. I can't remember that had 2 decent teams in it. Every year.
Big Ten. That's the Big Ten. We used to call it the Big Too Little Late because there was Michigan, there was Ohio State, and then there was everybody else. So I guess you can make that same argument for us. Are you doing that for us?
I'm talking about the Big 8. I'm talking about the Big 8 conference was a joke. And I don't care. You can put 200 Big 8 championship years on your stadium. I couldn't give a rat's ass about it because it's a joke of a conference. So that's why, Mark, getting back to the whole conference debate, is I don't care how many conference championships people have. I really don't. You can't be a blue blood based on running a sorry ass conference. So that's why I don't care about that stuff. It's what you do on the national level.
Love this. Who's a blue blood? Well, but before I ask you that question, to everyone, and we're introducing Alex to the conversation. Alex, thank you so much for your patience. And I'm veering away from my typical bringing in one person at a time. And now between Mike and Darrell, they have pushed me over the edge. So we're just, it's one big party here. So I may go watch, I don't know, the Twilight Zone or something and let you guys talk college football for the next 3 hours. But Alex will bring you in. Alex, I believe, is an Ohio State fan, of course. But before we get to the blue blood thing, Porter, let me make this one statement. I'm not saying that this is the definition of blue blood. This is my own personal definition. That, for example, is Clemson a blue blood? No. They will never be a blue blood. They can be an elite program, and they have, of course, been an elite program and arguably the best at certain times in the last 10 years, but they will not be a blue blood because to be a blue blood, that speaks of royalty, which is kind of passed down and is at the very origin of college football. And I know then people are going to argue Harvard's a blue blood and Rutgers is a blue blood, but under reasonable, like the beginning of the poll era, that Notre Dame and Alabama are blue bloods and Ohio State and Oklahoma and Texas, etc., are blue bloods. And there's a difference for me between blue blood and elite. Miami's been elite, Florida State's been elite, but they will never be blue bloods technically. That's my own definition.
When was Florida State elite?
When
was Florida State elite?
They've been
Can
good.
You just ask that, Mike.
In the 90s. They had like 14 years where they finished the top 5. I mean, they were tremendous.
Mid 80s to 2000.
Okay, yeah, in the tail end of Bowden's. Okay, there was a brief area.
Tail end during his prime.
But why do you say Texas is a blue blood?
Texas, really?
Yeah,
they're a top 5 or 6 winning percentage and win total team of all time.
Second, right behind us.
Second,
but
I said winning percentage.
Never mind.
Yes, wins. You're telling me Texas is second? I thought Ohio State and Alabama were tied for second.
Unless they got passed.
Georgia has as many national championships as Texas. Is Georgia a blue blood?
No.
But they have as many national championships as Texas.
Yeah, I'm not counting national championships. I'm looking at the origin of the sport. The dawning of the sport in the 30s and 40s, in that range.
And so Texas, because they're able to run the Southwest Conference, another sorry conference.
Sorry?
What? Are you serious?
And run up all these.
That was not a sorry conference in its heyday. it turned out to be a sorry conference its last handful of years. But the Southwest Conference was not a sorry conference with Arkansas and Texas and SMU. No.
SMU was consistently good.
No.
They had
not
some years.
consistently, but you had other teams like Houston and Baylor who were really good at times. It wasn't a sorry conference.
Okay, Mark. It's nothing
Yep.
like. It's nothing like, even when the SEC had 10 teams, it was nothing like what the SEC had when they had 10 teams. Just like it was nothing like what the Big Ten was when they had 10 teams.
I would love to look at the winning percentage between the SEC and the Southwest Conference during a certain period of time.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, when it was the Southwest Conference, I'm sure the Southwest Conference would have been higher.
You got to be kidding me.
No,
Amazing conference.
no. In those days of the Big 8 Southwest Conference before they became the Big 12, those were some massively
But
good teams.
you're going off into the Big 12, Mike, and the Big 8.
Yeah, well, I think when I think of Big 8 and Southwest Conference kind of as a back before they kind of split apart and merged back together. But the Big 8 and Southwest Conference back in like the 70s, those were some massive teams.
They had probably one or two good teams. And every now and then a Baylor or a Rice or an Arkansas or somebody like that would jump up there and do something, and then they would go right back down. So you can't say that the Southwest Conference was a great conference. It was one state plus one other state, which was Arkansas. That's it. You had Texas, and you had the state of Arkansas.
Alex has joined us for a reason, so let's give
sorry.
Alex
Sorry,
No, I'm loving,
some time
I'm loving this. Go
Sorry
ahead.
about that.
What do you got
No,
for
please,
us,
please.
Alex?
Go ahead. I'm loving this.
Well, I mean, the biggest knock you could make on the Southwest Conference is they were good, but they cheated to get good. Cheating was running rampant in the Southwest Conference.
They did cheat. You're right.
I mean,
They were good.
at one point in time, I think like half of all the teams on probation were in the Southwest Conference at one point in time.
Yeah, they had conference championships at times late in its existence where there was like a Texas Tech team that went to the Cotton Bowl one year to represent the conference, and they were like 6-5 because everybody was ineligible in front of them.
I remember that.
Is that when they played Southern Cal?
Yes,
Yeah, I remember that.
and they lost 55-14. Yeah.
But one thing about Oklahoma, I mean, as a Georgia fan, remember they gave you guys fits in the playoffs not too long ago.
Yeah, it was a great game. But my point is, I think Oklahoma is becoming more of a regional power and less of a national power.
Okay,
Yes,
let's get
yes.
down to this Oklahoma thing. Mike, where would you put them right now in the SEC in the pecking order?
Right now? Oh, pfft.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they were the 15th team? Okay, let's put teams that I would put below them. Vanderbilt, obviously. Missouri.
Is that it?
Yeah, you're putting me in a bad spot here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Now,
you gotta figure Oklahoma's really down right now.
Well, wait a minute. When we make statements like that, they're really down right now. They've had one down season.
Right, but
They may
let's say they
bounce
go
immediately
10-2
back.
in
They
the
won
Big
11-2 the year before, so I don't know that they're down. They
Yeah,
may
but if
be. We'll see.
Yeah, but then 10-2 went out to Los Angeles.
right, but if you're
That could be the case. Yes.
if you're 10-2 in the Big 12, what does that mean in the SEC as well?
9-3.
Yeah, 9-3 or maybe even 8-4. I mean,
Here we go.
I'm sorry. Do you remember when Texas went on the road to play Arkansas? And what was it? Arkansas was like just an average SEC team, and Texas lost by 19 points.
True.
I mean-
Do we know what happened when Alabama went to Texas last year, and Alabama was one of the best teams in the SEC? And
Yeah, Texas, Alabama won.
by
Alabama-
1 point, and
Well,
that was
wait a minute.
because they played a hobbled backup quarterback.
Yes, you know that Texas outplayed Alabama. What I am saying is not that Texas is better than Alabama. I am just counterpunching your one-game narrative.
I mean, I get that, but still, I mean, a win is one team won, one team lost. So, I mean,
Okay,
that's the difference.
do you really want me to run down all the Big 12 wins over the SEC in the last 5 years?
No, we don't need to do that, Mark.
Do you have that?
No, we don't need to do
It's
that.
closer than you, it may be closer than you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this is anecdotal, but let me just say this. When Missouri was in the Big 12, they actually were ranked number 1 in the nation. When Missouri comes to the SEC, they're a 6-5 program.
Whoa!
Oh,
wait a minute.
They could have played for a national championship. What was it about a decade ago? When that they didn't Auburn beat them in the SEC championship?
Again, Porter, you know,
Yeah, pretty badly.
You know, I respect your college football knowledge, and I definitely know that you know what you're talking about. But I generally agree with what you're saying, but I do think it's overplayed a little bit. When Missouri left the Big 12, they were coming off seasons of 8-5, 10-3, 8-5, 10-4, 12-2, 8-5, 7-5, 5-6, 8-5, 5-7, 4-7, 3-8. So they weren't. That's since the year 2000. So they weren't like always tearing up the Big 12. They had their good spots and their down spots. And we know that after one season in the SEC, that they won 2 division championships in the SEC. Now, they're not doing anything now but playing 500 football and playing well under 500 football inside the conference. I agree with you. I'm just
But one of those years,
some other points to light.
but one of those years in the Big 12, I want to say it was 2007. I believe.
Seven.
They were ranked number 1 in the nation.
Yeah.
Right after they beat Kansas.
Chase Daniel was the quarterback, and so, but they have not sniffed number 1 since they moved to the SEC. That's my only point. Yes, it is a program that can every now and then step up and have those double-digit win seasons, but they've not sniffed number 1 since they got to the SEC.
Oh, I think it was in 2013. They didn't get number 1, but they sure sniffed it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, those early Missouri teams were pretty good. But Mike, what do you think the Oklahoma is going to be in the SEC? Or you think they'll be double digits, or do you think?
Did we just get through this?
I mean, I just want you to say it, because it seems like you think they're going to be a top 3, a top 2 SEC team, where I think they're going to be like mid-pack.
I think if Venables is on the right track, I think within 4 or 5 years, they would be a top 3 program in the SEC.
See, I just don't think that's going to be the case.
No, I don't think so. No,
I think they can definitely out recruit. Texas is right next door. Oklahoma has no problem getting recruits, or at least at one point in time.
Texas is not the key. The problem with the state of Texas, and I used to live there. I used to live in the Austin area. They have great athletes. The problem with Texas and the state of Texas in general with the recruits, they don't have nasty linemen on either side of the line that come out of the state of Texas. The nasty linemen are from Louisiana, Georgia, Florida. That's where you get nasty offensive and defensive linemen. You don't have that in the state of Texas. The high school ball in the state of Texas is so overrated. So yeah, you can get great receivers and quarterbacks.
Overrated.
Yes, it's overrated.
If you can recruit Texas properly, you don't have a lack of any position. But, plus Oklahoma has.
They don't have the offense.
I can't agree with Texas high school football being overrated.
Are you
It's
serious?
overrated because they don't have great athletes across the board at every position. They don't have elite linemen.
Okay, what we are looking at right now is the Big 12 against the SEC, and during the 2020s, the Big 12 is 6-5 against the SEC. Now, does that prove anything? No. Is that one metric to see? Yes, that's what that is.
That's Mark.
Again, I didn't say that proved
teams,
anything, but let's understand that the Big 12 does win games against the SEC, and I knew it. That's why I took that stat.
Mark, one of those games was when half of LSU's team had left the team, and Kansas State, who's excited about playing an SEC team, plays.
And you know what, Porter? Another one of those games was when Georgia was playing in the Sugar Bowl, and they didn't want to be there. And they gave up, and they laid down, and they forfeited the game because they didn't want to be there. So we're not going to count that one either, right?
Well, look at the glory years there. Let's look at the 2010s, 18 and 28.
Okay.
Let's look at the 2000s, back when you had Oklahoma and Texas Tech and all these other great programs. When they got it going, they have a losing record against the SEC.
And then I remember pretty recently when Alabama played Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl, and Alabama gave up.
Yeah,
but when Alabama,
hopefully people are catching my sarcasm there. Like, let's not make excuses for losing games. I can make all sorts of excuses. If Ohio State had the best kicker in college football, they'd be the national champion right now. But they're not.
But Mark, you're telling me that LSU team, after Orgeron was fired, and half of them left the team, that should be representative of the Big 12 being superior to the SEC.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying that that's one case, that's one game, and if we really delved into it, I'm sure there are situations in which the Big 12 didn't have its best representative playing an SEC team. Texas Tech blew the doors off Ole Miss during a bowl game last season. Should that not matter? Texas Tech blew the doors off Mississippi State the year before in a bowl game. Should that not count?
But somebody brought up an Oklahoma and Alabama game. Well, Alabama didn't even care about the game, but when they're focused,
again,
here we go.
When they're focused, like in the last time they played in the playoff, when both teams are focused, Alabama blew the doors off.
Whoa. Okay, so Alabama beating Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl last season shouldn't count because they must have just lucked into that win because they weren't focused. They didn't care. But they somehow beat Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl last year. How could they possibly care about that game, and they didn't care about playing Oklahoma in 2013?
I'm talking about the
play. Pick and choose which games they care about.
Yes, I can, because I can talk about who has a chance to win a national championship. The playoff is the biggest way of measuring that. And when you see what happened to Oklahoma when they have gone up against SEC teams, I'll take my Bulldogs out of it. That was a great game. There's no doubt. That was a great game. But they had one of the best players in their history, and I was lucky that my team won. We were lucky that we won. But look at what has happened since when they played SEC teams in the playoff.
I don't disagree with you that the playoff games are the most important, and they're the most valid because, yes, the teams, you cannot question their incentive. But I'm not letting a bunch of teams take a pass on every game that they lose because they didn't care. You know what? That's even a greater indictment on those teams and those programs. If you don't freaking care about playing in the Sugar Bowl, get the hell out of there. You shouldn't earn a penny for it. Sit at home because you're sorry asses. You're not competitive. You are not competitive athletes if you don't show up on national television and play your hardest in a bowl game. That's an embarrassment.
I agree.
Pathetic.
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
And
my point is, if you want to compare apples to apples, then you need to look at the regular season and you need to look at the playoff. When you get to these bowl games that don't matter, you can't say that you're getting the best effort out of both teams. You can't say that.
Don't show up.
If you can't care about a Sugar Bowl, then why are we even having bowls? Period.
Because I can
go back to 08 when Alabama should have beaten. Alabama was a better team than Utah in 08, but look what happened.
But they didn't care.
But Mike, that's going to go away with the playoff. Every major bowl game is going to be a playoff game. All the New Year's Six are going to be playoff games. You're not going to see that. You're not going to see a Sugar Bowl where half the team ain't going to care. because every team that goes to a New Year's Six is going to have a chance to win a national championship.
Okay, so once it expands to a 12, then every SEC team that plays a non-SEC team in the playoffs, it's not probably as good as them. They're going to have to win They're going to have to win, or there's going to be no excuse, right?
What do you mean no excuse? I don't know what you're saying.
So you're saying that if if they lose, they didn't want to be there. It was a disappointment. All that's gone, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. I mean, you're going to get the best effort out of both games, and that's why when you look at this is why the SEC is head and shoulders above every other conference, because you look at what has happened in the playoff. I gave this stat out the other night when I called in this show.
Well, when you get 50%, of the playoffs,
there's only been one SEC team that went to the playoff that lost their first round game. And
Alabama.
And that was Alabama in 2014 against Ohio State. Since then, every single SEC team that has been to the playoff has at least won their first opening round game of the playoff. That's domination. That's not even close.
Absolutely.
Well,
you're right.
The year Alabama beat Cincinnati doesn't count.
It doesn't count, Mike.
It doesn't count.
We're just counting playoff games now?
Against Cincinnati, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Mike, I heard a little jab in there that I wanted to clear up. You said the SEC gets 2 playoff teams. That's why they get more wins. Well, Mike, the SEC has earned those playoff spots by winning on the football field.
Yep.
It just means more. Yeah, that's great.
It doesn't just mean more. We beat teams. Georgia went out and beat Oregon by like 48 points.
The first game of the season.
Oh my gosh! Now it depends what time you want to play.
Okay, now I got to stick up for the SEC, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's really not a lot to prove. I don't really know how we got on this subject. All I was trying to say was that a Southwest Conference championship does not mean as much as, say, like an SEC or Big Ten championship. That's kind of what I was getting at.
It just means more.
It really does, though, Mike. I mean, you think about it. I mean, listen. It really just does. I'm sorry.
It does.
There's Alex.
I grew up a Big Ten fan. I love the Big Ten football. I mean, my parents are from the Midwest. I loved Michigan back in the day. My first team that I ever liked was Michigan when Anthony Carter was playing for back in the late 70s and all that. I love that kind of
that's
football.
Old school.
Yeah, Rick Leach, Anthony Carter. I mean, I know Big Ten football, but I live in Atlanta and I went to school at the University of Georgia, so I'm going to stick up for my school.
The SEC is the best conference, and I say this all the time.
No
that
argument.
I wish there was a debate, because I would love to have a debate. If the Big Ten would have had different results in this last year's playoff, we would have had a heck of a debate this entire off season. It would have been phenomenal, because there would have been points to be made on both sides, but we just can't make that argument because it's still the SEC.
Mark, can I ask you a question? So is the SEC the best because of the last 20 years, or the best because of the last 120 years?
The
Not
SEC
120 years.
The SEC is the best right this second, and it's the best in the last 20 years, both.
So over the last 120 years, I did a little research, and I found out that other than the Ivy League, it's the Big Ten 42 championships and the SEC 38. So I don't know where that fits into this whole thing, but doesn't that make us the dominant ones?
Well, that means if you want to argue all time, then it's an argument.
Yeah, that means all time for 5 more years. The Big Ten will have the most championships until the SEC wins the next 5. Right? Isn't that the way it's been going?
It all depends what the argument is. That's what I say every time somebody poses an argument to me. I try to clarify, okay, what are we arguing here? That's all I ask. What are we arguing? Because most people jump around their argument all over the place. They go to whatever shiny object is going to prove their point, but they're not consistent with what the argument is. So I just need to know what the argument is. But the argument about today, best conference, it's the SEC. The argument about the last 20 years, it's still the SEC. Now, if we want to go to all time, then we've got more work to do.
Well, I guess we're talking about blue bloods, and my problem with blue bloods is when you think about the impact today in modern era, and I'll take my alma mater out of it. To me, and it pains me to say this because I don't like these teams, but to me, I have a lot more respect for teams like LSU, Florida State, Clemson, Florida, teams that have won more national championships in my lifetime than some of these other universities that are called blue bloods. So it almost reminds me of if you remember the book back in the 90s, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. They asked Jim Williams where he's from, and he said, "I'm not from a blue blood town or a family." He said, "I'm nouveau riche." But then he stops and says, "But it's the reach that counts." And you understand my point is, who cares if you're a blue blood or not? It depends on championships. Championships are what matter. And I have a lot more respect for these modern programs like Miami and these other ones that have actually gone out and won these national championships. So I don't give a rat's rear about what, Penn State did in the 80s. They hadn't done jack since the 80s.
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't quite go that far either. But you're hyper-focused on one game. That's a national championship game. What I try to do, though, is bring a little perspective at times. So 2008, Florida won a national championship, correct? There could have been other teams selected to play in that game. We play in a sport where there's so much that is subjective. In 2011, why did Alabama get a chance to win the national championship when they did not win their own division? And they were playing a rematch against LSU. Now, I have no doubt that LSU and Alabama were the two best teams in the country. However, I do believe that we need more objectivity in the sport. And that has paved the way for certain teams to play for championships and excluded other teams from having the opportunity. And I'm just highlighting because it has nothing to do with our conversation, but Christopher's comment that Ohio State University marginally better than the Mountain West. I have no idea what that means, comparing a university against a conference. That just amused me. So anyway, proceed.
Also, when you're going to the national champ, you're not counting all those ones that Alabama just pulled out of thin air, are you?
Well, they don't have to. That to me, as an SEC guy, it always frustrated me about Bama is they would count some that maybe they didn't need to count. I mean, they've got overwhelmingly the better tradition of anybody in the SEC, but yet they count these national championships that they don't need to count. I mean, they blow everybody away. So it's
I mean, if you're counting all the national championships going back to don't be counting all these ones that Bama just invented.
Well, there's a couple of them, but if you see what they've done since let's just say the 1960s or 70s, they're all legit. So I don't know what you mean by that.
I would agree with Porter. So the reason I agree with Porter is because I've gone through all the championships, and while they did make up a few, they also could have claimed a few others. And when I vetted the entire thing out, they came out with the same number of championships.
Really?
Yes. I'll have to go back to whatever video I posted with Alabama's championships, and I took like 3 away, but I added 3 more. And I do know that they get crushed for that, and deservedly so for a few that but I don't know why they didn't claim a few other different ones.
So didn't they claim one in 71 when Nebraska knocked the doors off of them?
Well, that was before. Back then, the polls would come out before the bowl game.
Yeah.
Which means yes, probably. Okay, so we're getting back to that.
Which is unfortunate. Yeah, absolutely it is. But that's just how it was done back then.
For as much, Porter, as you don't like Auburn, they should be claiming more national championships.
2004, obviously.
Well,
Was it-
83, they had a really good team in 83. I
Yeah,
think
I would claim one.
The
I
problem
would
with 80,
claim 83 if I were them.
the problem with 83 in Auburn is they did exactly what they did in 2004, which means they went to the Sugar Bowl and had a very uninspiring performance in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, they beat Michigan. Was it 10-9 or 9-7 or something
Yes.
like that? And then
9-7.
It was just a very boring game. They needed to put on a show.
Well, that's
year.
what's wrong. That's what's wrong with college football. They had to put on a show. How about being the best team in the country against the best schedule, and not having to put on a show for a bunch of sports writers that don't know what they're talking about and
But they're
don't know what
playing
they're doing apparently.
But they're playing a Michigan team that didn't win the Big 12. I mean, the Big 10. They're playing a Michigan team that didn't win the Big 10.
Yes,
So.
but the national championship is not awarded for playing one game. It's awarded for the entirety of the season, and they played the best schedule.
I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I think that Auburn team was an outstanding team. I'm just
If
saying.
I'm Auburn, I'm hanging a banner for that
I don't
season
know.
and 04.
I think Sports Illustrated was the only one that gave them that national championship. None of the major
Yeah, I mean,
polls.
who cares? Like, if I'm these universities, I'm saying, who cares who's giving us a national championship? I am debunking all of that and saying, screw you. We don't care if you recognize us or not, because who are you, Sports Illustrated or whomever? We won all of our games, or we had the best record in the nation and we played the toughest schedule. So why are you honoring this team over here and not us? Boom. There's our banner. We're a national champion.
That sounds like
That's
the
what I
20,
would do.
that sounds like 2017 Central Florida right there.
Yeah.
But they lost badly to Texas, though, Mark. You got to remember that.
Yeah, they lost, and the Miami team lost even worse to a worse Florida team. That Texas team could claim a national championship that season. They went 11-1.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 10-9 against Georgia, as you well know.
Yep, I remember. John Lastinger.
Well,
Mike, you made some comment about Central Florida. You know, their fans still have a flag that says they're the 2017 national championship.
They should.
they're undefeated. They beat an
I know,
SEC
it
team in the
still
bowl.
annoys me, though, because there was a
Why?
playoff. Oh,
Yeah.
But
my
they
stance
could've
is
been
no
selected
G5
to.
team. They should
But
just
they-
separate.
But they were undefeated and they beat an SEC team in the bowl game. That sounds like a great. I mean the SEC, the mighty
But there was
SEC. They
nothing
beat them
on-
in the bowl game.
I am all for
There's nothing
UCF
on the
claiming
line.
that championship. Absolutely.
I've told you where I stand. G5 teams are
That's
they shouldn't even belong in the sport. They should
Yeah,
just
but they
separate.
do. But
But they went undefeated and they beat a team from the state of Alabama. I mean, how great can that
A
be?
team, yeah, but Mike, that
A team
team,
from the state of
they had
Alabama.
like they had like their starting starting corners announced for the NFL that same week, and didn't play in the bowl game.
Okay. Here we
Here
go.
we
Played the
go.
bowl game.
Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Okay.
Mike, it's even better than that. The poetry to that season, it is just poetic that UCF beat the Auburn team that beat Georgia when they were number one and beat Alabama when they were number one, the two teams that played in the national championship game, and they beat Auburn in the same exact stadium that Alabama and Georgia played for the national championship. Absolutely. If I'm UCF, I'm hanging up that banner.
Well, that's poetry right there.
Mark, you're smart at that, man.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not saying that
does
they're the
anybody
best
think they would
team.
honestly beat Alabama on the field?
No, you guys completely missed the point. I'm not telling you who the best team is. I'll tell you who. If I'm Ohio State in 2015, I hang a banner and say we were the best team. No, they don't deserve it. They didn't earn it. They didn't get to the playoff based on losing to Michigan State. Do I think they were the best team? Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being the best team and earning yourself into a playoff spot. You have to earn yourself in a playoff spot, then win the national championship.
Well,
And
UCF did all that they could do. What else were they supposed to do? They couldn't do anything else but win all their games. They won every game they played. If they're not going to get invited to the Invitational, then they play Auburn, who beat the two number one teams in the country in November, and beat them.
So let's stretch this
Hang a
logic out
banner.
to its reasonable end. Let's stretch it out to its reasonable end. Let's say Miami of Ohio schedules 12 FCS teams. Okay, they go independent, schedule 12 FCS
Lord.
teams, and they go 12-0. Should they claim a national championship?
Nope.
Why not? They're undefeated.
UCF plays in a conference. They have to play the teams in the conference. They played 2 Power 5 teams outside the conference. Then they played Auburn, who was in line to go to the playoff before the SEC championship game in the Peach Bowl, and won the game. What else were they supposed to do?
There was nothing they can do. There's just,
And
I
again-
believe there's some teams that just can't win the national championship.
Again, do not confuse this argument with me arguing that they were the best team. They were not the best team. They were nowhere close to being the best team. But they should be spitting in the face of the college football hierarchy to say, we did everything we could, and then ironically, you match us up against the team that wins against 2 number 1 teams that are playing in the national championship game, and we beat them in the same stadium. We're going to hang a banner and say, screw you, we won the national championship. I applaud that.
Yeah, but Mark, that team had 3 losses coming into that game,
Who cares?
and
They
some of their best players already just left the team before they even played the game.
Here we go.
It's not the same. It's not.
Here we go.
I mean, that's why I say. That's why
There's
I
always
say
a disqualifier.
Apples to apples, you got to use the playoff because that's when both teams are engaged. That's when both teams are motivated.
Well, you have to win. You have to be invited to the playoff to win it.
Well, I understand that.
So wait a minute, Mark.
They
Hold
didn't
on.
get invited.
Can I ask you a scenario about the 12-team playoff then?
Sure.
Let's say you have 2 group of 5 champions that both go undefeated.
Yeah.
Only one of them gets invited to the playoffs. Should the other one hang a banner anyway?
Absolutely.
Oh, so would you advocate for expansion if that happened?
No,
Wait.
I'm
Wait, is
telling
there a
you
rule
that
saying only one group of 5 can make it?
It's the highest ranked group of 5 gets a guaranteed playoff spot, but
A group of 5 can't get in at large?
they can. But are they going to be ranked high enough to get at large?
I would think that if another group of 5 was undefeated in a 12 team, I think they get in.
See, it would be close, but I don't know if they would get in or not.
I would hope so.
I mean,
just
I would hope
taking it
so.
From the standpoint of the university to say, what do you want us to do? We've won every game. You're not allowing us in your invitational. Again, it's not a playoff. It's not a playoff. It's not determined by a system. It's determined by 13 knuckleheads in a room that come up with whomever they want. So what else are they supposed to do? Now, if they divided the group of 5 into its own separate playoff, then that would be fine and dandy by me.
Well, it's gonna be rectified.
Yeah, it is.
It's gonna-
Except for a situation like the Real brought up, which is unlikely, but otherwise, yes, the group of 5 team will get to play in the playoff. Yep.
So it's
Yeah, get to play, but we all know. I think we all believe what's going to happen is they're going to get destroyed every single year, which ain't going to be a great look for the group of 5. I mean,
Well, especially since the group of 5 has been watered down considerably because they're going to Power 5 conferences, and they're continuing to do that.
But you think about it, though, Drill. If they're not one of the top 4 conference winners and they get to host their first round, let's just say you have to go to Memphis or you have to go to
Porter, this is almost. I want you to know before you go on this rant, it's almost 0% chance this is going to happen because after the top 4, it goes in order based off the playoff committee selection.
Well, if you have an undefeated, let's just say you have an undefeated. What would be a good? Now, I keep trying to think of.
Tulane wouldn't have even had hosted a playoff game. They would have had.
Yeah, you have to be top 8.
Well, I mean, if you get back to the Central Florida, I know Central Florida is going to be the Big 12 now, but if you have something similar to that, they would host a playoff game.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
So if you're
Cincinnati's the only one I could think of.
Yeah, and they're Big 12. So
But I'm
they'll be
saying
Big
that
12.
Cincinnati team in 21 would have hosted
Right.
the playoff game.
They would have hosted a playoff game. So I would never say never, especially some of these places that are hard to get to. I think it'd be good for college football, to be honest with you. So I'm not rooting against that. I think it'd be great to see somebody. Let's just say Tulsa. Let's just say Tulsa had a undefeated season, and they host a playoff game, and it's in the weather's bad or whatever, and they beat somebody like Oregon. That's gonna be big, and it's gonna be good for our sport. I would not be surprised if that happens.
Porter, you might as well throw in Oklahoma.
Well, they're in the SEC.
Oh, okay. Now that they're in the SEC, they can't lose a playoff game. I got you.
No. Okay, well, fine. Tulsa hosts Oklahoma. Let's just say that. That would be good. But my point is, it's if you have another Central Florida type scenario, they're going to host a playoff game. They're going to be top 8. So I would not be surprised if that happens, and they actually beat a better team. So I would never say never on that. I guess that's what I'm.
If I recall correctly, Central Florida wasn't a top 8 team, even though they went 12-0.
I think they were.
No, I think they were.
I think they were at 9.
I don't think they were either.
I think they were like 13.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, I thought they were in the top 10.
I don't even think they finished in the top 10. I think they were just outside at 11, even after beating Auburn.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I thought they were like 9 or 10 or something.
Well, you may be right, because I think 5 and 6 were Ohio State and Southern Cal.
And I think Auburn was 7, weren't they?
No, I think when Georgia beat them pretty bad in the SEC, I think they dropped to. I can't remember what it was, but.
Well, I know Auburn was, if I remember, Auburn was like the highest 3-loss team I've ever seen that late in the season.
Yes. UCF, number 12.
12, yeah. Yeah, and there's Auburn at 7, yeah.
Okay.
So even they wouldn't have hosted a playoff game.
Yeah, you're right. I'm staying corrected. So.
Yeah, I don't think.
What do you think, Mark? Do you ever see a group of 5 team hosting?
No. I think with Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, and Houston entering the Big 12 and the possibility of San Diego State and SMU going to the Pac-12, it's just we are weakening the group of 5 schools, conferences, and the less likelihood that one of them is going to be a dominant, when I say dominant, I mean for a group of 5 team.
Too bad it's not like soccer where you can relegate.
Yeah, Mark, let me ask you this. Do you think an unranked group of 5 champion can make the college football playoff?
Well, they're going to, because it's the top, what 6 conference champions? It's the top.
Yeah,
the automatic buys are. What's that?
The top group of 5 conference champion is guaranteed to be in the playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like they just said, the group of 5 is getting so small now that there's not going to be too many group of 5s left. Somebody might very well be the best team and still unranked.
Yeah, I couldn't, like I was trying to give an example, I couldn't think of many, and then Tulsa just popped in my head. So that just tells you there's not a lot out there.
Yeah.
I thought about Cincinnati. I thought about Central Florida. Maybe South Florida, maybe one.
Coastal Carolina.
Down to Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Air Force, Tulane. There's not a whole lot more.
I can see South Florida doing it. I can see South Florida stepping up and doing something like that.
Yeah.
But all right, what else is there to talk about? What's everybody sipping on?
Well, we can talk about San Diego State. I mean, Mark brought them up. Mark, do you think they're going to enter Pac-12? What do you think the percentage chance of that is? Because, I mean, that's been a complete debacle for like a year now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take a stab at what's going to happen, and that's that the Mountain West and in San Diego State mend their disagreements, because the Mountain West, for as much as they're playing hardball right now, they're just a better conference and can make more money. with San Diego State included, and San Diego State's in no man's land right now. So I'm going to guess that they're going to hold them down for another few years, would be my guess. But that's not necessarily going to happen for sure.
I think
San
like
Diego State's going to
Pangea.
pay a ton of money to leave.
I think
What's that?
Mark. I think like probably 5 years, maybe 10 years. We'll have like the West Coast Conference and the East Coast Conference. You know.
Well,
be.
I don't think it's going to be divided like that because of the SEC.
Well, I mean,
It's
like
gonna
the
be
SEC and the
North
Big
and
Ten.
South,
Like,
or
Like I say, it's north
Right.
and
it's going to
south.
be a diagonal going from LA to Boston in that direction, with the SEC owning its current territory plus whatever they grab from the ACC, and the Big Ten being in the other direction. I think the
Yeah,
Big
that's a good
12
point.
has somewhat stabilized things, kind of warded that off for the time being. But that's possible.
I'm going to jump off here, guys.
Hey, Mike, thanks for being here. I think
Thanks for
we
having me.
will,
Nice talking to y'all.
wrap
Good
it up.
talking to you, Mike.
Have a good one.
Let me catch
So
up
this
with
is
the
my
super
this is
chat
my
real quick.
upset thing that would
Yes.
Mark. This is my upset game that would probably stir a lot of chatter, a lot of craziness. As a Buckeye fan, especially, I'm concerned. I'm genuinely concerned about Notre Dame. I think that game is just going to be something about that game. I
Mhm.
saw the spring game with Notre Dame. Everyone loves saying spring games mean nothing. They don't mean nothing. And that spring game was just wow. It was like watching Bama in their prime 10 years ago. They were just on both sides, were just amazing. So I'm really concerned. I'm concerned for Iowa State because, like, Lord knows where we're going to be at that point. You know, we have a tendency to, be pretty inconsistent. So if anyone wants to jump on that, they can, because I think Notre Dame, I just think we could lose. I think we could. Yeah.
I agree with you. Notre Dame is stout up front. Their offensive line is always ready to go, and they have a downfield passing threat in Sam Hartman, who I believe is the best quarterback they've had since Brady Quinn. That's going to present some problems for an Ohio State secondary that's not been Ohio State standard for 5 years or so, except for 2019. Yep. All right, Alex. Anything else?
You guys were
All right.
fun.
Appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, man.
Good to hear from Alex tonight, and we appreciate the super chat contributions that would be coming in from Lemansky. My all-time fave MVP remark, quote, "No, we don't need to do that, Mark," whatever that referred to at the time, like 4 hours ago. Lemansky, thank you so much for your contribution. In my lifetime, Buckeyes have dominated their conference more than any other team. Their string of good coaches is amazing to this Hawkeye fan. And Daniel says Ohio State since 1998 is tied with Alabama with the most New Year's 6 bowl wins at 13. We could recite them all off the top of our heads, but we will take your word for it. Alabama 13, Ohio State 13, apparently. All right, folks. Good times had by all. It was a great discussion. I appreciate everyone in the chat. The next time you will see me live for sure will be Monday night for the Big Ten show, Big Ten Live, coming up Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern time. But most likely, hey, we will jump on live if other things are transpiring in the world of college football. And of course, we've got our video series with our predictions. And also, I think we'll dive into maybe more position rankings. We shall see. Also, I love your response to the various teams that we are previewing in terms of offense and defense for fall camp. We have or are just about ready to post Clemson, Florida State, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and a few others are coming. So be looking out for those fall camp previews. And again, predictions right here at the Voice of College Football. We will see you soon. I'm out. Thank you so much for all your support. Amazon links in the description section.